So we get into what a lot of people been waiting on, the nitty gritty of bias and data privacy, which has jumped almost 10% in 2024 alone. I'm Dr. Dixon. Welcome back for wherever you may be joining. Hit the follow, subscribe link, whatever it is you have. I do have a YouTube channel that I actually try to go live on within the next week or two. So I can actually answer some of these questions live, and I also have some guest speakers that join me sometimes as well too, that actually are in the industry. So it's not just me talking to you all. You all actually get the opportunity to hear people that don't want to use it, some people that dive into it a little, and some people that don't want to deal with it at all. So yeah. So two of the main questions I hear all the time. The first one is my data safe? Right? Like what I put in there, is it actually safe? Especially amongst researchers. We want to make sure that our stuff is safe. And the second question is there embedded bias inside of these outputs, right? So we're going to touch on the first thing of data privacy, and then we're going to speak on biasness. To test for data privacy, it's quite simple. Some of the actual systems have it built in that are actually shared and administration can use, like for example, ChatGPT through Azure OpenAI. It's just a simple switch of the button. You ain't got to worry about anything as far as your data is concerned. But of course, being most universities are a little hesitant about chat GPT and AI inside of the classroom because of faculty uncomfortableness with it, that probably is not everyone's option at the moment. So there's three simple questions that you actually need to look for on the security site of any AI source that you're using, or go to the actual, chat assistant app that they have normally inside. And there are the three ideas that you need to look for, things that are of discernment. The first is data retention. Where is the data actually being stored? The second is how long, like those questions with data retention is something that's quite important, right? What's actually being retained from my data? The second thing is data location. Where is it actually being located? How long? All of those particular questions, right? And then the third thing is simply, what's the compliance when it comes down to higher education, right? So, like, does it follow FERPA guidelines, right? Those very important questions that you have, right? GDPR guidelines, those guidelines that are very important that we must follow in education. And also, businesses have guidelines that they must also comply with as well. So before you actually decide to implement any of these AI tools, you want to make sure that the data privacy is set in those bots, so that way none of your information nor your students' information leaks and you have data issues. If any three of those, questions that you ask or that you find seems a little iffy, it's a red flag. Don't use it. Like, just don't use it at all. You're not 100% sure where it's back, right? And so if you do find a bot that you actually like, if it does pass your data privacy, now let's figure out how you actually can make sure there's no bias inside of the outputs in those actual bots that you decide to use, or that you want to use rather. Now, how do we detect bias, right? Well, it's a simple game that I use when it comes down to making sure there is no bias in any output. I call it the bias bingo game when I'm doing certain things. So I always make sure I add at the end of any statement or prompt that I give to GPT exactly list any demographic groups that could be disadvantaged or misrepresented by your answer. Be specific. You want to make sure that that is exactly as stated at the end of every prompt. What the actual prompt and bot will do is self critique itself, and it will give you actually the outline of all of the things that it could be potentially biased with the output. Once you get that, you take that output and you then adjust it, and boom, it's an inclusive environment. I then like to follow that up again, check that exact output, and then type in that actual prompt again immediately after. List any demographic groups that could be disadvantaged or misrepresented by your answer. Be specific. and then we go through it again, and we'll see again there will be some more bias, and so we can adjust it, and you feel free to keep going and adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. That's the idea of bingo, right? Until you get exactly what you want. Bingo. So for me, those two things work well. I first check the data privacy with that data privacy pop quiz by making sure those three questions are hit and hit hard and very clear. And then I pair it with my bingo bias, my bias bingo, sorry, where I keep playing that game with my output to make sure that it's very inclusive and no one feels left out, and that there is no major leaks in whatever it is that I'm putting in. Nobody wants lesson plans that are leaked. No one wants lesson plans that are biased in any type of way to any group. So at this rate, we can kind of let AI fix itself when it comes down to biasness. So hopefully that eased a lot of worry and concern when it comes down to bias and data privacy. Comment below with your biggest fear of AI in whatever industry you're located. If you want personalized prompts done for you, if you want a checklist, if you want a deep audit on what you're actually using currently right now, whether it be a business, institution, whatever you may be, DM me and email me. And so let me know if there's anything I could help. If this was useful for you, definitely like, subscribe, and again, comment on your biggest fear of AI right now, right? So that's something that we want to make sure we handle. And if you like the content, feel free to support. All right, have a great one. Peace.